everyone. Welcome to our Skuid App-etizer for December of 2020. This is our very last appetizer of the year. And we thought we would roll out 2020 with a little bit of fun. It's been a tough year in a lot of ways. All of us at Skuid are stuck at home. We haven't been in the office in 9 months. And so we thought we'd add a little holiday cheer to the appetizer series. So appetizers, if you've been playing along all year, you know this, but if you're new to the game, appetizers, these Skuid appetizers are really just kind of bite-sized examples, highlights of features that Skuid has that can really help you to extend your Salesforce users today, the use of Salesforce today. So we just wanted to give you some quick things. My name is Rob Hatch. I'm a product manager here at Skuid, and I'll be your MC and helping with some of the build today. And I'm joined by Sam Alexander, who's one of our designers in our product team here at Skuid. He's going to be the visual guru behind what we show you today. So yeah, as I said, we want to have a little kind of holiday fun, do something a little light. So what we're really interested is showing you how easy it is to use Skuid to go beyond the data you get just directly out of your Salesforce environment and to bring additional really important information into the environment where your users are doing their work. And then also how easy it is to make that really pop, how easy it is to design it well so that it's just not that the data is there, but that it's truly useful. Truly helps your users do the job that you're asking them to do. So the examples today may be a little silly, maybe a little contrived, but a little holiday oriented, but I think it'll be pretty clear how these examples are relevant in lots and lots and lots of different business perspectives. So I'm going to ask Annie if she can let me share. Okay, so I've got my share. Let's see, let's find the right one. Okay. So for any of you who are here for the first time, what is Skuid? Let's just kind of take care of that background information. Skuid is a UX platform that can be hosted in your Salesforce org. And it makes the building of custom apps and custom functionality in that Salesforce org super, super easy. And I think we'll demonstrate that today. If you guys have questions as we go along, stick them in the chat. We'll hopefully spend some time at the very end looking at what those questions are, but also we can follow up, or we would encourage you to, if the things that you see today are interesting to you, go to our website, skuid.com. We have a series of demos there that are real functioning Skuid applications that can show some of the pretty robust capabilities and robust designs that can be delivered with Skuid. So the example, I said it was kind of contrived. Let me kind of walk into the example we want to show today. So imagine that the management team at Universal Containers, the famous Salesforce company that's always on the admin exams. So that management team has come to you, you're their awesome admin. And they really have asked you to help with their year-end sales goals. They want to keep some important statistics in front of the sales team that's in their Salesforce Lightning every day. They want you to put some things on the homepage of that Lightning environment. And the specific thing they've asked you to put up on the homepage is how many days are there until Christmas? How many days are there left to get the deals done? There's a couple of ways you could do that. We probably could write some Apex and write a Lightning component and then figure out what the CSS would be to get that styled correctly. I can imagine, you could probably get that turned around so it'd be available in December of 2021 to show off. But with Skuid, we want to show this is really pretty straightforward to do this kind of thing, especially when you think about the information that's available on the internet. So I just happened to be out there looking, and I found this API, this REST API, that returns the number of days until Christmas. The guys at Anvil, they're a Python shop. They do a Christmas calendar every year, which is fun applications. And one of the applications they did this year was an API to get the number of days until Christmas. That got me thinking, okay, I could bring that REST API into Skuid, and then I could show the data out of that REST API. It's really pretty trivial. So let me take care of that part. And then I'm going to turn it over to Sam, who's our designer. And he's going to show you how he took the data that I provided in Skuid and designed it really effectively. So it's a really elegant solution. So let's start with Skuid. So back in Skuid, I was showing Skuid earlier. This is kind of the administrative environment in which Skuid is. We're going to use data sources. We're going to start with the data source. And I created this new data source. It's calling a REST API. It's calling the Christmas days at anvil.app. That's the URL for this REST API. Now, this REST API is completely open, so there's no authentication against it, which is probably not exactly realistic in the business world. Probably there's going to be some OAuth authentication or some username and password that has to be presented to get the data back from whatever third-party data source you're invoking. But Skuid can handle all of that. So if we want to add a named permission or add some sort of authentication provider to get at that data, you think, with Salesforce, continued announcements and continued investments in Customer 360 in the way they're really looking at getting more and more data onto their platform, the continued investments in MuleSoft, et cetera. This is a great example. It's a great opportunity to use more and more of that data and use it in your interfaces. And Skuid makes that super straightforward. So again, we created a data source. One of the things that Skuid does really kind of automatically behind the scenes is it creates a remote site settings. So obviously, when Salesforce isn't going to be able to automatically make an external call without this configuration. And Skuid's just going to take care of that for you. When you set up a data source, when you create a new data source, we're going to go ahead in your Salesforce environment and automatically create a remote site setting for you. Once you get the data source created, let's jump over to building a page to actually interact with that data source. So here we have our page composer. And I've already set this page up, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I already did here. The first thing I did is I created a model, which is our kind of logical construct for binding to data wherever that data may live, bind to that data, and then make it available for use in your components. So in this case, I have this model I did against that days to Christmas data source I did. And I stitched together the kind of the domain that I defined in the data source with the specific extension of the URL for the full endpoint here. It's often the case that you're going to define a data source that has a lot of different endpoints, and you want to think about what to define in the data source and then what to define in the endpoint. Here, I just have one endpoint, so I defined half of it in the data source and half of it in the model, and then because I had defined it, it's going to retrieve that data source, and it's going to let me see what fields are available in that data source, and I can choose the days to Christmas field. And then once I've got that field in a model, I can add a text component to that to my page. So this is all just straight drag and drop stuff, and I can bind that text component to the model, and I can use merge syntax, which is kind of a way we have of pulling data out of models and putting them into components on the page. And then let's quickly preview that page. Let's see what it does. And it shows me that, what do you know? Today, there are 22 days left to Christmas. Sam, does that math work out? Yep, I think that's right. I think our friends at Anvil have created the right number. So anyway, so that's a Skuid page, the simplest form of Skuid page. And then obviously, I need to integrate that somehow. So Salesforce makes it super easy to customize the layouts of the pages that are being used by your users. So here, Lightning App Builder, the default homepage, Skuid ships with managed Lightning component that hosts any of the Skuid pages that you have built in the Skuid page builder. So drag the Skuid page component onto your Lightning App Builder page and define that it is my days to Christmas page. And then we have our homepage dashboard, which the performance in this org is pretty poor, but nevertheless. And then we have our Skuid page showing that there are 22 days until Christmas. And so really in the course of, in 15 minutes that it took me to find that API, create the data source, et cetera, I've delivered on the initial part of the requirements that I was given by management. So that's okay. But I think, Sam, you can probably make it sing a little bit better. Do you want to take over and kind of talk about design?
Let's do it. Let's make this Christmassy.
I'm going to stop sharing and I'll let you pick it up from here.
All right. Let me share my screen. Okay. How are we looking, Rob? Can you see my screen?
Yep. This looks great. This looks great, Sam.
Perfect. All right. So this is where Rob just left off. We've got this nice kind of drab gray 22 days till Christmas. Super functional, man. Super functional. But maybe we can get this to be a little more visually appealing. So I've got this. I've got my page split. I've got my runtime on the right, and I've got the Skuid Composer on the left. And then I've also got our Design System Studio here in another tab that I'll jump into that here in a moment. But yeah, there's a couple things we could do kind of right off the bat that would help this. This 22 and the days till Christmas are kind of wedged up against the side here. We could probably give it some breathing room. We could probably maybe change some text sizes, maybe center the text, and we could do all of that in the Composer. We could go into our style properties for this text, so we could add some kind of ad hoc spacing here. We could maybe change the background color of this wrapper. But I've got bigger hopes and dreams here. I actually went into my design program. I use Figma, and just kind of mocked up this cool Christmas widget. So just illustrated this background here, and I'd love to get this 23 or 22 number sitting within kind of an abstracted calendar type thing, just to kind of, when you first see it, you think days, you think calendar, makes it a little more useful, a little more accessible, get some color in there, and just kind of get it looking a little more Christmassy. So this is actually going to be super simple to do in Skuid. So a couple things will be configured in the Composer, but for the most part, I'm actually going to rely on our Design System Studio to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So let me jump over to that and just give you guys a quick tour of what that is. So if you have never played with our Design System Studio, if you're new to Skuid, or maybe if you're familiar with previous versions of Skuid and haven't gotten to play with the newer versions, basically what our Design System Studio is, a design system in Skuid is basically a collection of like stylistic building blocks and then component styles that you're basically setting all that within your design system, and then you use that design system within the Composer, within the pages that you're building, and it keeps everything that you build consistent. So you can define things like brand colors. This is actually you get two design systems out of the box with Skuid: the ink design system, which is just kind of basic Skuid styling. It's kind of what you see in the Skuid admin experience. And then the Lightning design system, which is based on their design system that they've made public online, so that when you build pages using that, the stuff that you build looks like it belongs in Lightning and is consistent with the patterns that they've created. So I just cloned the Lightning design system. So you'll notice these are all Salesforce colors. Same with typography. We're using Salesforce Sans here, and then all the font sizes are consistent with what Salesforce is using in Lightning. But the cool thing about this is that you can actually you can add on to that. We can make changes to it and extend it a little bit. So once we have all of our different variables set, basically those are what when we're clicking through and styling our different components. And these are all the components that you see in the Skuid Composer that you're dragging and dropping into the screen. This is where you can style each one. As you're styling these components, so for example, if I wanted to style my buttons, all of the properties that I'm pulling from are properties I've already set over in the variables section. So as you're designing and getting your components to look the way you want, you're always pulling from the same palette. So everything's going to stay consistent and is using the same stuff. And it also means that if you change something on the variable side, everything that is pulling from that is going to update accordingly. So it really allows you to kind of cascade your styles through everything. Basically, everything here is the same as Lightning as when I cloned it, but I've made 2 adjustments, and that's what we're gonna use today. So the first adjustment is we're just going to use this extra large text variant, and a variant is basically just you can have multiple versions of a style of a particular component. So for a text component, we can use large, extra large, huge, and this is just makes it really simple to say, I want this text component to be 32 pixels, bold, basically a header style, or I want this particular text component to be my default body text style. You can just set that in the composer and it pulls from the variants here. So we're going to use the extra large variant to do this 23 here, or the actual number of days to Christmas. And then the label here, we're going to use one that I created. I just kind of basically cloned and created a child of this default body style text variant. And I created another one that's the same in every way, same size, same font family, but I just gave it a medium font weight. So it's just a little easier to read at a small size. So we're going to be using that. And then I've also created, we're going to be using wrappers in kind of an interesting way today. So you'll notice I've got a red wrapper here, and you can't see it because there's no contrast on the white background, but this is actually a white wrapper. And we're going to use this calendar top and calendar bottom wrapper variant to create the calendar shape. So the top is going to be our red wrapper, and the bottom is where we're going to put the number in the composer, and that's going to create the bottom of the calendar. So let's jump over to the composer and let's let the DSS do what it does best. So the way you set a new design system for your page is by clicking on the Skuid page, going to the page properties, and then coming up here to design system. And you'll notice I've got my Christmas design system that I can pull from. And so once I've set that, now when I go into all my components, I go to their styles and go to their style variants options, I'll have all of the variant options from that particular design system available to me in these dropdowns. So the first thing I'll do, I'll just make a few tweaks and we'll already get this thing looking better. So I'm going to use my card style variant, which is just this bottom one right here. It's just got 24 pixels of padding around the content. And it's got a nice shadow there that kind of makes it look like the rest of these Salesforce cards, really common style pattern that they use on their pages. So I'm going to use that style variant for the actual container around our Days to Christmas widget. So it looks a little more consistent. I'm going to, let's just change the background to white. And then I'm going to center our text here. And then let's save that. And let's just take a quick look at what that little bit has done. Okay, great. So even with just a little bit of space and centering the text, it looks way better. And it's even, it's a subtle change. You may have missed it, but it's actually using Salesforce Sans now. So before it was using a different style, a different design system that was using a different font family. That has now changed since we switched the Pages design system over to the Christmas one, which was cloned from the Lightning design system. Okay, so now let's actually get it looking like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the calendar around the number here. And in order to do that, I need to reduce the size of this text a little bit. So I'm going to go to the styles for the text component. I'm going to change the style variant to extra large. which is just 32 pixels. And I'm going to change the bottom text component to that default medium that I mentioned before. And I'm going to now add 2 wrappers to the page. One's going to be the calendar top and one's going to be the calendar bottom. Drag those in. I'm going to set the top to calendar top and the bottom to calendar bottom. You guessed it. And I'm going to drag my text component into the calendar bottom because it's sitting right there within that wrapper. And so this red thing, that the calendar top, it needs to be, based on the design, needs to be 12 pixels high. So without any content in it, it would just actually be 0 pixels high because Skuid's like, but there's nothing in it. It doesn't have a size. So we need to actually specify the height that we want that wrapper to be. So I'm going to go to the wrapper properties, go to styles, wrapper height, and I'm going to give it a fixed height of 12 pixels. And let's save that. And let's refresh it. Okay, so you can't see the calendar bottom because the background is white. But you'll notice that it is sitting within there. And it's occupying all this horizontal real estate. So what we need to do is we need to kind of contain it and get it to fit to its own content and actually look like a calendar, look at the right proportions to that. So the way I want to do that in Skuid is I'm going to use a responsive grid. And a responsive grid, you can use it for a lot of things. Think of it as a way to create multiple columns in a page and then specify how those columns size according to each other and according to the space around them. So I'm going to put my calendar, those 2 wrappers, in the middle column here. And basically the way, if I were to save this and refresh it, by default, those columns are just going to occupy, if I have 3 columns, they're just going to occupy 1/3 of the available horizontal real estate unless I specify otherwise. So it has gotten smaller, but I want it to actually be sized according to its content, not according to the available real estate. So I'm going to change my division property to a flex ratio of 0. This is all in our documentation, but basically it's just CSS ease or Skuid ease for fit to the content of what's within this particular division. So think of those two divisions on either side, kind of pushing that middle one in, and that middle one kind of only getting as small as the content that's within it. All right. So now we're sized, everything's looking good. And now all that's left is to get our cool Christmas scene behind it. So, oh, and actually, I think there's also, we've got 8 pixels of space between this text and the calendar. So let's just add a little ad hoc space there. We'll add 8 pixels of margin to this bottom text. And now to get that Christmas scene. So I'm going to go back to my wrapper properties, the one that's around everything else. I'm going to go to background. Instead of using a color, I'm going to use an image. And our image source defaults to a static resource in Salesforce. You can also use URLs. You can pull from image that you have in your Skuid models. You can get really creative with this, but I've already uploaded my scene as a static resource in Salesforce. So I'm just going to type in Christmas background. And right now it's using the original very large file size. So all we're seeing is the blue of the sky. So I want to change the size to cover, which basically just tells it to snap to the top and bottom and let it bleed out on either the right or left side. And then I'm going to center it. I will save. And then just like that, we'll refresh. We've got our Christmas widget. That's so amazing. Now we can look at the days to Christmas on a nice calendar.
Thanks, Sam. You took what was functional but boring and you made it interesting. I noticed one little last thing there. Every time you refreshed, a little Christmas Skuid hat showed up there. Could you talk about that for 30 seconds?
I can, yeah. So in Skuid, when you are deploying in Lightning, It has a default loading GIF that that you can have in there. It's just a little spinner. But if you want to get fun with it, if you have something custom that you want to use, maybe I know we've done this for several customers where they've animated a GIF of their logo or something like that, and they just toss that in there. So you can have custom loading GIFs in Skuid.
Man, that's amazing. Thanks. That's great. Well, this is a little bit, has been, again, a kind of goofy example, and it's just been a little holiday fun for you. But I think if you think about the important data that you have available that might help sales teams, it might help other users within your company, if it was in front of them as they did their work on a day-to-day basis in Salesforce, I think you can imagine how powerful it would be to bring it into that environment in this way. So we'd love to talk with you if you've got other questions about this. We don't have any more questions in our, no one else has asked any other questions, but if you do have questions that you want us to answer in the next minute or two, go ahead and pop them in the Q&A and we'll answer them. But if this starts triggering other ideas for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to talk. So a few housekeeping things. We just want to let you know that we're super grateful for all of you who have been with us this year as we've done this webinar series, the App-etizer webinar series. This is the last of those App-etizer webinar series. We're thinking about how we're going to reboot this series for 2021, but haven't made specific decisions yet. So there's no App-etizer yet scheduled for January, but there's going to be something. So stay tuned to all of our social media channels, our website. We'd also encourage you to sign up for our regular monthly email called Skuid Word. You can do that on our website, and that'll give you all of the information about what's happening, ways you can be in touch with Skuid. One thing we are doing in December that I want to alert you about, we've connected with the guys at Salesforce Ben, which is a group that puts out really interesting content about Salesforce. They have a newsletter that goes out twice a week on really everything that's going on in the Salesforce platform. You should totally check them out. But we've partnered with them, and we're going to do a couple of holiday live streams and giveaways with them. So Skuid and Salesforce Ben together, showing you cool things that can be done. We're going to bring in a couple of other Salesforce MVPs into the mix there, and going to be doing some really cool things. So the details of that should be dropping on Monday. So wait through the weekend. So again, check out our social media channels to get more information about what we're doing with Salesforce Ben. So I don't see any questions. Our marketing folks just asked me to add to the Salesforce Ben pitch that with those live streams, we're also going to be doing some giveaways. So I think there's going to be some Bombas socks, maybe some headphones, who knows, some cool stuff being given away in those live streams. So you'll definitely want to check that out. But that's what it is. So Sam, any final words?
No, I think you covered it, Rob.
Okay. Listen, we're so grateful that you all joined us today. I hope you have a wonderful holiday, however you celebrate. And we look forward to seeing you next year on all these channels. Okay. Thanks, guys.